inside, the filly on the outside. Names give it away, I think. Green light goes on the final event, the 2-year-old trot there, and they've come out lickety-split too here, and it's pretty keen go. Anna Flex here, the young filly, she's going to get across Greg the Great there. There was plenty of pressure on there, so they've done it pretty well out of the gate. And Anna Flex, she's a Federal Flex progeny there, and she's out of Abandoned Annie, a good horse of Peter Hornsby's that only had a limited racing career, and I was talking to Pat Marks just before the trials about it. It was injured after winning the Constellation of the Redwood, and had a track accident over the back there when Peter was bringing it back into the stables one day, but she certainly could have gone on to be a pretty handy mare, Abandoned Annie, but let's hope it's going to follow up with Anna Flex. And Federal Flex, just looking at his progeny, he's had only the 5, well, I looked up the Victorian breeding and the Australian breeding, he'd only had the 5 runners for 1 winner, but it was one that was just recently too. The other fella, Greg the Great, he's one that Scotty purchased at the sales, the trotting sales last year, and he's a son of Great Success, who I couldn't believe the record of Great Success when I read it. He's had 32 individual runners this season for 16 individual winners. That's a fair sort of effort, a 50% strike rate to individual horses that race. It was 32 out of the crop and 16 individual winners. It's a fantastic performance, and because he stands locally over at Gary, so Michael Taylor will be pretty happy there. And Greg the Great's out of Speedy Naomi. She won close on 95,000, the mother of this horse. And she was out of the great Kim's Fantasy. Many will remember her, one of the Karen Manning horses that when it behaved itself, and sometimes it was a bit naughty, but it was a very, very outstanding horse there. And as I said, they're pretty well bred, these 2 youngsters here, but Anna Flex showing the way clear. Gee, manners has be the name of the game here, and they touch wood, haven't put a foot wrong, these 2-year-old trotters, and the filly leading the gelding at the moment with Greg the Great there, camped right on the leader's back. They're getting plenty of benefit out of this trial, the 2 trotters, and they go down the back there, and there's only a length and a bit between them, and Anna Flex with that earlier gate speed has the slight advantage and able to dictate terms and heads towards the 400 and doing the job nicely. Greg the Great there camped right on its back, so they'll come up the straight, you'd figure, together. Had the option to go. No, he's not going to wait for it, Scotty. He eases to the outside. They're going to come down the straight together, these 2 horses. Anna Flex the inside, Greg the Great the outside. It has been a good exhibition of square gating by these baby trotters. Anna Flex up in front. I've put plenty of pressure on him. Greg the Great on the outside strides up, might have put his nose in front, kicking back the young girl on the inside there, Anna Flex. Greg the Great the outside. They're both held together. Anna kicking back, Greg the Great the outside. They go to the line. Make it hard for me. Greg the Great, I've got to give it to the outside horse if I've got to give a margin. They've gone to the line locked together, but perhaps with a margin here. Greg the Great, a nostril to Anna Flex, and then they're both probably benefited from